Hello everyone, it's the storyteller here. I've prepared something slow, eerie, and sleep-friendly for you tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Are you drifting off already, or still wide awake? Oh mother, please send my father across. It was all a dream. Merle's breath like rotten fish on top of her tongue. The balled up, gray, dead mass of it settled at the back of her throat, like stale phlegm. His beady, stained tongue wriggling around on top of her tongue. His hand under her blouse, fumbling, scratching. His nails yellow and black and green, the sight of which made her vomit. His pus-filled, bandaged hand on top of her breast, the nail digging into her nipple, the dirt in his nails mixing with her blood. In her blood, the blood cool in the thick heat of the dark room, sweet, mixing with the scent of the vomit dried on the floor. She had dreamt it in the night, writhing like a dying fish, a pool of yellow sweat, unable to scream for all the phlegm in her throat, the fat tongue in her mouth, the eyes in the window. The eyes were from a long ago dream. Black, a darkness darker than the black heat of the room, a self-eating darkness, turning inwards, two holes in the dark, like the memory of the snake's fangs on Amma's black skin. Two eyes watching her, watching itself. Two eyes, like holes in the heat. She could slip away, like vapor, like smoke, like the silver mist over the river. The river, black in the night, black and shining, winking like the silt around it. Silver and loose, a million glinting eyes winking in the black night. The air ripe with the sour promise of raw mangoes, teasing and winking from the branches. Among them, the glinting brown eyes, cat-like of Muna, sitting on the branch naked, his long, cat-like body shining fluorescent, blue and violet. In the dark night, Ladki, he whispered to her, want a mango? His words tinged with the stale scent of a biedi, fishy. In the river, there were fishes as small as a dot, dark and invisible. Holes in the river, moving eyes. The big fish did not swim. They stared at her, their mouths sending a bubble up the surface of the water, which burst with a quiet pop, waiting for her answer. Pop, 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 Munia, she asked. Not ripe yet, Muna said, and laughed, revealing a scurvy mouth with wiggling teeth, like maggots. With each shake of the shoulder, a ha up and a he down, the teeth dropped down, raining like mangoes, too impatient, too ripe and restless, dropping with a pop, pop, pop as they dropped and popped down. The night black rats gathered them up and scuttled away. An undulating, shadowy tide, whispering, an underground, mousy susurrus, like the restrained gossip, sisak, of the leaves in the night wind, conspiring. Amma had said it was rubbish, that the aam tree was spiritless, spirits having no cravings for the mango. It was all make-believe, just whispers, conspiring. But this changed when she saw Muna's body, the penis chopped off, dangling from the tree. And now he was sitting beside it, kicking it absent-mindedly once in a while, so that it went swinging. A Sawan swing scene. Munia began to sing now, bellowing in the night, quiet. Amma, mere baba ko bhejori, ki sawan aya. Mother, please send my father across. Now the rains have come. And with her voice, the rains came down, quiet at first, trickling down her forehead, down her back, like sweat, mixing with the sweat into a vaporous headache. But soon, as Munia's bellowing grew more hysterical, stretched and cracked, the rain gained violence, sheets after sheets crashing down on the earth. Dum 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 da dum da dum dum. There was no song in this rain, nothing sacred, no rhythm, no melody. It was the roar of primeval war drums, the shanknad breaking out of the sky's raging core, bloodthirsty, furious. The mango trees were screaming in anguish as their branches convulsed, epileptic, suicidal, wanting to break free. But the roots unyielding, circling tighter and tighter around their ankles, cutting off the blood, then cutting into the skin, circling tighter and tighter till they were bleeding. They were bleeding and screaming. Their blood washed out by the rain. The earth was bleeding. Pools of blood, pools of filth running down the mango grove, running down the fields, running down the streets, running down to the river, running down. She looked at Muna, hanging on to the branch, swinging in the rain, the noose getting tighter and tighter, choking, screaming out into the rain. Amma, mere baya ko bejori. She knew that the flow of the dream, the black river, with the pop fish, with the mango carcasses, with the winking stars in its belligerent waters, was running down to the void, the shunya that was inside her, the void that she was made to cover with her sari and petticoat, her red bangles and black bindi, the red dye on her feet, and the toe rings which cut into her skin, the shunya that was a red field, with Amma's corpse lying among the bent-down barley, the teeth-girdled void inside her stomach. As she watched her, running towards the mango grove in her shit-stained sari, the blouse torn off, running to the branch that was no longer weighed down by Muna's incomplete body, the void that no Baba, no Bhai, no Mama could cross, a bottomless pit. What could Sawan do? The shunya spelled out by the noose around Muna's neck. The shunya Murli was trying to prod with his puss-filled fingers and his puss-filled organ. The shunya that was a dream, the void that was this dream that was a void, flowing, rushing down into the night, to where the black river came to a halt at the dried-up vomit puddle, out of which she emerged into the dark room once again. Her body felt slimy, putrid, a mix of semi-digested rice, sweat, and the rotten substance of death. Murli's hands pressed tight around her neck, and her neck gave away, turning to sludge. Murli bent down and licked it up, his tongue abrasive, spiky, leaving scars for flies to lay their eggs on. Her breath started to go, and she could hear the thrashing of her heart in her ear. But she repeated to the beat of her thumping heart, "It is all a dream. A dream, a dream." It was all a dream. But it wasn't hers alone. It also belonged to Amma. It was a dream passed on to her, the only dowry Amma could muster, her inheritance. The dream belonged to Muna too. It was the dream that Amma spun out in the thick heat of the dark room, spinning and spinning. The thread of her word laced with her saliva, the strings of saliva that would purse her lips as she kept mumbling in the dark, spinning, her words indecipherable, a chant, a plea crying out into the night. Muna, Muna Munia Munia. It was the dream that Amma had spun out in the dark night, as the man whom they never called Baba filled the air of the room, humid with his sweaty appetite, heavy with his piggish grunts, filled it with the scent of his bidi, which would make Munia sick, filled it with the sight of gray tufts of hair pushing out of his ears, filled it with a heaviness that sat in their stomachs for days, stones in their chests, gray, a shame that stalked them and enwrapped them, entered their bodies, evacuated their innards, rendered their guts hollow, an all-consuming parasite, till they were all sludge, putrid and shameful, wobbly and shapeless, shadows, shunya, the dream that rose above this scent, these sounds, this heaviness, a light, weightless dream that her eyes caught a glimpse of as she had stood there watching, her two eyes glinting in the window. Outside the window, Munaya and her counting the teeth that they had found this week, buried in the silt around the river. buried in the sand like shells, hollow, heavy with the weight of their own insouciance, their own lack, a self-inflicted negligence, dropping out of mouths and scuttering around in the sand. Sometimes they found worms inside them, pink and white and sometimes green. They compared the shapes that they found. Munia, claiming her finds to be sharper, while she rubbed hers against her thumb till it turned raw, certain of their supremacy. Sometimes she kept them in her mouth, swirled them around, the taste of dirt, metallic, sour. She sucked at them, like at the stone of the Jaman. Now, Merle's teeth shifted around in her mouth, scuttling down her tongue into her throat, tasting of gutka and anger, scuttling down her body, digging, puncturing the skin, searching for the arteries. A group of 3 scuttled down and lodged into her vagina. And all she could think of was the teeth around the river and the necklace of teeth Munia made for Amma. The same necklace which she ate 1 tooth a time after each meal, her self-prescribed medicine. Outside the window, Munia and she were watching her with a gray feeling in the pit of their stomach, as Merle laid claim to each part of her body and signed it off with the mixture of her own blood and his own dirt. Outside the window, Munia and she became 2 eyes, superimposed, simultaneous. One, a palimpsest of dreams and bodies and voids and eyes, melted into one. He and her, she and him, her and her, peering in at her mother and her mother, dreaming, drifting out of the window through the holes their eyes burned through the darkness, peering in at herself, the dream of I, Amma, Munia, breathing in the dark. Our bellies swell out in a rhythm, up, down, up, down. Munia is not Muna now. She won't be Muna again till morning. When morning comes, she will have to leave herself beside me, wrapped up neatly on the pillow. Leave this dream that Amma has spun for us and cross the shore. But it is still night now. Amma is telling us the story of a king who lost all his kingdom, all of whose children died at his own hand by some cruel accident of fate, all of whose wives died of grief, all of whose citizens died of the plague, and all of whose army died at war. Now, what could such a man do in this world? He wandered around the ghost of his kingdom, dreaming. Munaya and I do not believe this story. We contend that such a man should die, would die. And can't death be a dream? Amma asks. I wake up. Merle is shaking. He is done. He turns around and goes off to sleep. I look out of the window, The sun has started to come up. I repeat to myself, it is all a dream, a dream, a dream. Watchers. The asylum's security surveillance room was a claustrophobic chamber adorned with peeling wallpaper, crumbling shelves stacked with aged records, a small wooden desk, and an uncomfortable metal chair that creaked under the most minute amount of weight. A single rotary dial telephone sat on the desk. A thick layer of dust covered every surface but the desk and chair. The dim overhead light bulb flickered sporadically, casting eerie shadows across the aging linoleum floor that peeled in the corners. The centerpiece of this dilapidated room was a massive wall lined with outdated, grayscale CCTV monitors. Each monitor displayed a different section of the asylum, a haunting panorama of deserted hallways, medical examination rooms furnished with rusting metal beds and equipment, large dining areas, office spaces, and various other rooms possibly used for forms of recreation. The monitors were ancient, relics of a bygone era. Their screens emitted a faint, sickly glow that seemed to exaggerate the shadows lurking in the corners of the room. The images displayed were grainy, distorted, and pixelated. A small handwritten label accompanied each screen, indicating the location of the video feed. The cameras themselves, once cutting-edge technology, were now obsolete and barely functional, occasionally losing connection for a few seconds at a time. The crackling audio of static from the occasional disconnected video feeds added to the eerie ambiance. It was as if the very essence of the asylum had seeped into the wires and circuits, imbuing an unsettling presence into the surveillance system. James was 2 hours into his new job and already regretted accepting the position. As a college dropout, struggling to make ends meet, the job posting for a part-time security surveillance officer with great pay was almost too good to be true. There were no certifications or education required to apply. The agency didn't even require any previous experience. The pay was nearly double the current minimum wage. The only downside to the posting had been the hours. From 9 o'clock at night until 5 in the morning. James was surprised to find he was the only one to accept the position following the interview. Unwilling to let such a good paying opportunity pass, he agreed to all terms he was presented during his interview and had no follow-up questions of his own when asked. As such, he was hired on the spot and given the time and address of his first shift. Looking back, James realized he should have asked at least a few questions, such as where he would be working and why no one else had accepted the position following the interview. Lunaria Sanitarium, built in 1920, was nestled deep within the forests of the Pacific Northwest. The nearest city, taking at least an hour and a half by car, was Portland, Oregon. The hospital consisted of 3 separate buildings. The central 4-story building contained the medical rooms, recreational suites, and other administrative offices. Each 2-story wing building housed bedrooms with minimal furniture, a dining hall complete with rows of tables and chairs, and basements with locked holding rooms. Only the hallway leading to the doors for the holding rooms contained a camera in each basement. Every room in the sanitarium still contained original furniture from the time it was abandoned, as if all inhabitants simply left for the day and never returned. Vacated in the late 50s, the entire property was left untouched for nearly 7 decades. Courtyards, fields, and small farming patches were overgrown, nearly reclaimed by the forest whose land it was built upon. Despite the impending vegetation, the buildings themselves were surprisingly in good condition, despite the rust, mold, and rotting surfaces. Upon relieving the daytime officer at 9 o'clock, a gangly old man who provided no explanation of his duties other than not to fall asleep, James settled in for a long night. The metal chair behind the desk protested against his weight, and he made a mental note to bring a cushion for his next shift, figuring he would need help staying awake and being kept from boredom. James brought a backpack stocked with snacks, energy drinks, his handheld gaming console, and a few books his sister had lent him. He had debated whether or not he would get in trouble for playing games or reading while on duty. But how hard could watching screens of empty rooms be? Surely he would get in more trouble for falling asleep rather than being partially distracted. Gaze darting between monitors on the wall before him, a sense of unease settled deep within his gut. The screens were grainy and out of focus, an occasional ripple in the feed, giving the effect of movement and catching his attention. The wall of monitors was so wide that he had trouble viewing every screen without having to turn his head, causing the screens of the opposite side to disappear from his focus entirely. As the minutes ticked by with no changes, James relaxed and pulled his gaming console from his pack. He kept the volume low, just in case, and was careful to peek at the screens between each level of his game. The few games he owned that didn't require internet connection quickly lost his interest. He glanced at the time on his cell phone. 10:30. An hour and a half into his shift, and he was already bored. As James reached for his backpack, the scratchy sound of static caught his attention. One of the screens in the top row, which was labeled East Wing Dining Hall, showed nothing but black, gray, and white interference. Heart leaping into his throat, James watched as the lines danced across the screen. Less than a handful of seconds later, the feed resumed, and he was presented again with long rows of tables and chairs. Breathing a sigh of relief, James slumped back into his chair, the metal groaning in protest. Waiting for his heart rate to settle, James took in the creepy aspects of the dining hall, showing through the feed. Long, wooden tables made up a majority of the space, looking to be made of one solid piece of wood. James could only imagine how heavy they must be. Chairs dotted the spaces between the tables, all pulled out and look to have been haphazardly pushed around, a few even laying on their sides. In the far left corner of the room, a single door stood open, leading to the hallway beyond. James's attention fixated on the chairs. Had they been pushed out from the tables before? Racking his memory, he thought that they had been pushed in, not that he had paid any special attention to the small details. Clearing his thoughts with a shake of his head, he pulled one of his energy drinks out and popped the cap. Perhaps he just remembered wrong. While sipping the carbonated liquid energy, James pulled out a notebook and pen and began taking notes on the condition of each room, more for the peace of his own mind and to pass the time than any other reason. Subconcious convictions. They say in the moment of tragedy, time slows down. During those precious seconds, the mind accelerates. Your surroundings are a blur and disappear as your attention turns inward. You consider the events that led you to this point and what you could or should have done different. You consider who this will affect. You're suddenly acutely aware of every regret you have, things you wish you had done, or words you wish you had said to people you may never see again. What they don't tell you is that during this time of reflection, those thoughts don't matter. The steps that led you to this point have already been taken. You cannot change the past, and now must deal with whatever comes as a consequence of your own actions. But what if those thoughts did matter? I'm going to lose my job. That was the first thought that raced through my mind as I watched the man pull a gun from beneath his baggy jacket. The same man I had passed through security only minutes before. This was my first day on the job, and I was already going to lose it. The years I spent in college, scrounging for food, and borrowing my friends' couches and car seats just to have a place to sleep. The loans I took from friends, family, and disreputable sources. None of that mattered anymore, as the fruit of my hard-earned labor was going to sour and rot on the very first day. The moment the glint of his pistol caught my attention, my hand was already reflexively reaching for my own holster. In the mere moment it took to draw my gun and form the words on my tongue for the man to drop his weapon, I was presented with a choice. Do I fire at the man whose own gun is pointed at the young woman behind the desk? Or do I wait and try to talk him down? If I hesitate, he could kill the woman before I fire. Or I could fire first, not giving him the chance to stand down. What if the gun was fake? And this was just an attempt at intimidation. Does this scenario meet the requirements for the rules of engagement? With my decision made, I shout for the man to put down the gun. Before the last word had fled from my mouth, an explosive sound that will, from that moment on, forever haunt my waking moments rings out. I made the wrong judgment. The man pulled the trigger. Time continues to crawl by as the young woman's body drops to the ground, red misting the air and painting the wall behind her as she crumples out of sight behind the desk, seemingly to compensate for its slowed pace. Time then speeds up. People scream and drop to the ground. A mother flings herself over her child. An elderly man clutches his chest and faints. I have little recollection of what follows. I'm sure police arrive and subdue the man, as I suddenly find myself sitting outside on the curb. Uniformed officers question me. I'm not sure what answers I give them. All I can do is stare at their holstered guns. 3 seconds. That was all the time it took for the man to pull his weapon and end a life. Those 3 seconds play on repeat over and over. I lose my job due to my own negligence. If I had followed proper procedure, I would have found the man's gun as he came through security. Out a job, and with a permanent black mark on my record, my degree and certifications become nothing more than useless pieces of paper. My brand new car I financed is repossessed. I return to couch surfing and lending in order to get through each day. Loud sounds now terrify me. The bang of a car door closing has me reflexively reaching for a sidearm that isn't there, only for nausea to rise at the mere thought of a weapon. Red mist and a body crumbling to the ground. It only took 3 seconds for that man to pull his pistol and kill. I can no longer make decisions for myself. I fear that whatever choice I make will be the wrong one, somehow causing another life to end. Second guessing every move I make completely overwhelms my day-to-day actions. I cannot help but spiral within my own tortured thoughts to the point where I am too terrified to even move. It only took 3 seconds. The instant the man pulled the gun from his jacket, instinct led me to grab my son, push him to the tile floor, and cover his small body with my own. The only thought racing through my mind was his protection. Having only recently lost his father, I couldn't fathom losing Evan as well. A spray of red. The body of a young woman falling to the floor. The thud of her body colliding with tile echoing in my head. What if that had been Evan? What if he were older and the one working behind the desk when someone decided that they would end his life? Who would have protected him if I wasn't here? The security guard by the door, frozen with his gun raised, solidifies my resolve that no one can protect Evan like I can. It takes 3 police officers to pry me from my son's protection. Only after several reassurances that the gunman has been subdued and that we are safe am I willing to detach myself from Evan. Sweeping my sobbing 4-year-old into my arms, I hold him close as I provide the police with my statement, receive the okay from medical personnel to leave, and speed the safety of our small home that could have been Evan standing behind the counter. No one can protect him like I can. With school shootings, a very chill possibility. I pull Evan out of school just in case. I find a new job and that will allow me to work from home while homeschooling at the same time. Groceries are delivered to the house. Contact-free, of course. The only times I find myself not being able to avoid leaving the safety of our home are for regular visits to the doctor's office. I put these off for as long as I can without risking Evan's health. Every individual we pass is a threat, as who knows what weapons they carry, hidden beneath their clothing. Who knows what intentions they may have, or when they might decide to take their frustrations out on my innocent child. A local news broadcast covers the story of an injured criminal waking during surgery and attacking the caretakers and 2 bystanders. What if Evan and I had been there for an appointment? Even the hospitals weren't safe anymore. I called and canceled Evan's upcoming checkup. The doctor's office called at least once a day for a week straight to reschedule Evan's appointment. I let every call ring to voicemail. I know what is best for Evan. No one can protect him like I can. The phone calls eventually stop. The following week, 2 police officers arrive at our house, claiming the hospital staff called, asking for them to ensure we were okay. I reiterate through the closed door that all is well, but I refuse to open my home to them. I can see from the window the weapons they carry. What if they are not really police officers? What if they are here to hurt Evan? The next day, the police return with a woman dressed in a pantsuit and claiming to be from Child Protective Services. I refuse them entry and tell Evan to hide in his room. The woman claims that she is worried for my son's well-being and begs me to open the door. She doesn't have to worry about Evan. That is my job. Only I can protect him. They took Evan from me. They came in force, showing me documents that mean nothing to me as I sit handcuffed on my own couch. They claim I am not mentally fit to take care of my own son, as if they know anything about me or the dangers the outside world presents to my innocent child. I try to get them to understand that he needs me, that only I can protect him. Why can't they understand? They tell me I can argue my case in court. Why does no one understand? How can no one see how dangerous the world is? It only takes one man with a gun deciding to end a life. No one can protect Evan like I can. The customer service smile I have plastered on my face falls away as the man across the desk from me reaches beneath his jacket and pulls free a pistol. Despite the situation, I find myself surprised by the condition of the gun. My father was an avid weapon collector, and, as his only child, I was subjected to hours of instruction on all topics involving firearms. The man's gun isn't anything special, and is a brand that most households have stashed away somewhere for home defense. What caught my attention was the poor condition of the weapon. Scuffs and scratches cover most of the surface, and bare metal glints through gouged paint and texture. Wherever this man had obtained the gun from, there was a good chance it was either stolen or sold illegally. By the time the last remnants of my smile disappear, and my quick analysis of the man's pistol ends, I realize too late that I am the target of his aggression. Raised by a gun enthusiast, I thought I had seen them from every angle. I realized then that never have I stared down the barrel of one. It was a sight immediately burned into my mind, and one I never wanted to see again. I watch in slow motion as the muscles just under the skin of the man's hands tense, and his finger begin to pull the trigger. I can't help but think with irony that I won't have to worry about living with that fear. Silence follows the explosion of a firing pistol. The scene before me is familiar, though I can't determine why or how. I stand before a young woman, a waist-high desk, the only barrier between us. My right hand grips the cold, unfamiliar metal of the pistol I purchased from a stranger earlier this morning. I stare down the top of the gun at the young woman. She seems more interested in the details of the gun rather than the fact that it is aimed directly at her. There is something familiar about this woman, though I am sure I have never met her before. An irritating itch nags in the back of my mind that something here isn't right. I have been here before, but where am I? I want to turn and take in my surroundings, but am unable to move anything other than my eyes. Time seems to have slowed to a near pause. Glancing at the surface of the desk, I notice a stack of credit card flyers. Oh, that's right. I'm at a bank. One of the few left that actually handle cash instead of digital currency. Why am I at the bank? The memories come slowly, as though I am recollecting them through a vat of honey. The images are hazy at first, but slowly become clearer. I am desperate. The company I worked at collapsed due to fraud. As an accounting associate, I was one of the prime suspects in the case. It has been 2 years since I was accused as an accomplice, and the investigation is still ongoing. In those 2 years, my entire life fell apart. My fiancée left me, taking the word of the media over the man she planned to marry. She took our unborn child with her, refusing to allow me any part in the child's life. Do the investigation. I couldn't find a job. I lost my fiancé, child, and career. I lost all reason to continue to try. All I have left is a roof over my head. And even that will be gone soon, unless I do something. Robbing the bank wasn't a thought-out plan, but rather a decision made in desperation. Why had I thought this would be a good idea? I've never done anything like this before. This isn't me. Who have I become? The eyes of the woman before me begin to widen as she realizes she is staring down the barrel of my gun. Realization, surprise, fear, and then acceptance cross her features within a heartbeat. My hand tenses, my index finger beginning to pull the trigger. Wait, I've been here before. I've done this before. I've killed this woman already. Why am I doing this? For money? Is this really how far I have fallen? Would I really consider killing a woman for whatever change she might have in the drawer? Wait. No. I have already considered this. In fact, I have already done it. I am staring down the sights of my gun into the eyes of a dead woman. That is why she is familiar to me. I know I've killed her, but I don't remember what happened afterwards. Was I arrested? Was I shot? Glancing to my right, I notice a woman in the process of throwing herself over a young boy. Her son, Evan. Evan? Why do I know the boy's name? That isn't all I know. I know that the mother will be so scarred from my actions that she will hide her child away from the world, paranoid and plagued by the idea of some stranger hurting the only family she had left. Evan will spend the rest of his childhood in the foster care system. I've never met them before, so why do I know this? I shift my attention to my left, where a young security guard points his own firearm in my direction, his mouth open in a silent shout. I can see the fear and indecision wrought into his features. He will lose his job and any chance of a healthy life due to my actions today. Finally, I look back to the woman before me. She loses her life because of me. These are my victims. I can see the consequences these innocent bystanders will spend the remainder of their lives trying to cope with. All because I was desperate to pay my rent. I don't want this. I don't want to kill this young woman who has done nothing to wrong me. I don't want to cause the security guard to spend the rest of his life terrified of strangers and loud noises. I don't want Evan to grow up without his mother. My hand relaxes, and the gun soundlessly clatters to the ground before everything fades to black. Looking up from the report scrolling across his tablet, Jared smiled at his supervisor, Dr. Daniels, who had just entered the lab. "Good afternoon, doctor." The subject passed on the first run. His remorse caused a shift in his subconscious, and he dropped the gun before killing the woman this time. Dr. Daniels nodded, a bit of the ever-present tension in his shoulders relaxing. That is good. Pull him out of the simulator and send the report to the recovery team. With luck, he'll be eligible for reintegration within the next year or so. After receiving the affirmative from his associate, Dr. Daniels headed for the door, sparing one last glance at the man lying on the bed, connected to the simulator unit. The device was revolutionary to solving overcrowding within the municipal system. Based on their progress with therapists and reports provided by behavioral specialists, qualified convicts are removed from their cells and transferred to one of a few facilities housing advanced neurological simulators. Rather than spend years within a cell comprised of bars and mortar, they are instead imprisoned within the walls of their own subconscious. They are then subjected to relive the events of the crime they committed, as well as experience firsthand the impact their misconduct left on their victims. The results were astounding, proving that remorse and guilt, if stressed on a deeply subconscious level, could change the morality of an individual. Rather than spend the remainder of their lives behind bars, these ex-convicts would receive a second chance. Depending on their results after undergoing intense therapy, they would be allowed to reintegrate into a controlled section of society, a sector that was developed specifically for these individuals. They would not be allowed to return to the public, as retribution is still demanded for their actions. They would, however, be provided the opportunity to work in their chosen profession, earn a wage, and make something better of themselves while serving out the remainder of their sentence. Tearing his gaze from the man lying in the hospital bed, Dr. Daniels stepped out of the room and headed for the next lab. The shadow, the night, was silent, draped in an inky darkness that swallowed the world outside the small security room. I sat alone, surrounded by an array of flickering screens that illuminated my face in a ghastly blue glow. The hum of the surveillance equipment was the only sound in the room, its monotony broken only by the occasional creak of the building settling or the distant wail of a siren. I was the lone sentinel, tasked with safeguarding the premises during the bewitching hours of the night shift. Hours had passed since I settled into my chair, my eyes diligently scanning the labyrinthine halls and desolate rooms of the building. Everything appeared as it should, empty, lifeless, and eerily quiet. But as the clock ticked deeper into the night, a sense of unease settled in the pit of my stomach. The air seemed charged with a palpable tension, as if something sinister lurked just beyond the reach of the camera lenses. I leaned forward, adjusting my seat and peering closer at one of the monitors. In the dim light, the corridor appeared to stretch endlessly, the flickering fluorescent lights casting long, ominous shadows on the walls. As my eyes darted across the screen, I saw a movement, a mere blur at the edge of the frame. My breath caught in my throat, and I focused on the camera, my heart pounding. There, in the grainy black and white footage, was a figure. It was tall and gaunt, its features obscured by shadows. The figure moved slowly, almost purposefully, down the hallway, its gait uneven and unsettling. I squinted, trying to make out any distinguishing features, but the face remained hidden, shrouded in darkness. A shiver crept up my spine as I grabbed the radio at my side. "Central, this is security. I've got a visual on an unidentified person in Corridor C. I need backup." Static crackled before a voice responded, thick with sleep. "Copy that. We're sending someone your way. Stay on the line." I nodded, my eyes never leaving the screen. The figure continued its eerie saunter, disappearing momentarily from one camera's view, only to reappear on another. It seemed to be toying with me, always staying just out of clear sight. A phantom in the night. Minutes dragged on like hours as I awaited the arrival of my colleagues. The figure persisted in its haunting stroll, growing closer to the main entrance with every passing moment. I gripped the edges of the desk, my knuckles turning white, and watched in dread as it reached the lobby. As if sensing my gaze, the figure turned its head toward the camera, and I gasped. Its eyes, 2 points of cold, blue light, glowed in the darkness, fixated on the lens, as if it could see me. I recoiled, my heart pounding so loudly that I could hear it in my ears. "Central, it's looking at the camera," I stammered into the radio. "I need someone here now." The response was a garbled mess of static and fragmented words. Desperation clawed at me as I watched the figure approach the security room. It moved with an unnatural grace, its movements silent and deliberate. My fingers fumbled for the door lock, and I managed to secure it just as the figure reached the hallway outside. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room, and I pressed myself against the wall, my breath shallow and rapid. I could hear its footsteps now, soft but deliberate, as it approached the door. Each step sent a chill down my spine, and I prayed that the lock would hold. The figure stopped just outside the door, and I held my breath, willing myself to be invisible. Through the frosted glass window, I saw its silhouette, tall and imposing. Its hand reached out, fingers curling around the doorknob. I bit down hard on my lip to stifle a scream. My entire body tensed, ready to bolt at a moment's notice. Seconds stretched into an eternity before the figure withdrew its hand, and I heard its footsteps fading away down the corridor. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The building seemed to groan and sigh around me. The very walls whispering secrets that I couldn't comprehend. Summoning my courage, I cautiously unlocked the door and peeked into the hallway. It was empty, devoid of any signs of the figure. I hesitated for a moment before venturing out, my flashlight casting shaky beams of light across the walls. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and I could feel unseen eyes watching my every move. I retraced the figure's steps, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. Each flickering light and distant sound sent my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed, that the figure was still there, just out of sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I finally reached the lobby, my eyes scanning the area for any signs of movement. The room was still, the silence broken only by the distant wail of sirens. I let out a shaky breath, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. Whatever had been in the building with me was gone, but its presence lingered, a haunting memory etched into the very walls. I made my way back to the security room, my steps quickening with each passing moment. As I entered, I glanced at the monitors, half expecting to see the figure staring back at me. But the screens were empty, showing only the empty halls and deserted rooms. I sank into my chair, my hands trembling as I reached for the radio. "Central, this is security. I think it's gone. I don't know what it was, but it's gone now." The response was a crackle of static. And then a voice came through, tinged with concern. "Are you all right? Do you need medical assistance?" I hesitated for a moment before shaking my head, even though I felt far from all right. "No, I'm fine. Just shaken up. I'll be okay." The sun began to rise, casting a faint light through the windows and dispelling the darkness that had settled over the building. My relief was palpable, but the memory of that night would forever haunt my dreams. I had come face to face with something beyond explanation, something that defied logic and reason. As the day shift arrived to relieve me, I gathered my belongings and made my way to the exit. The building, once familiar and comforting, now felt alien and menacing. I stepped out into the daylight, the warmth of the sun, a stark contrast to the cold grip of fear that still clung to me. I glanced back at the building one last time, my eyes drawn to the security room window. For a brief moment, I thought I saw a flicker of movement inside, a shadowy figure standing amidst the monitors. But it was gone in an instant, leaving me to wonder if it had ever been there at all. I walked away, my footsteps quickening with every step. The world around me seemed to blur, the events of the night replaying in my mind like a nightmare. I didn't know what I had encountered, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. Some things, it seemed, were better left in the darkness, where they belonged. Resurgence. To suggestion of domestic violence, general violence, and child abuse. May cause offense. In the darkness of oblivion, now and as forever, swaths and waves of misery wash over me, disembodied, immutable and adrift. I should be at peace after all of this time on my own. But the sounds of suffering and pain continue to assault me, as they have done since I was delivered from one prison to another, tethered by the constraints of many others. Breathless, urgent cries like the bleating of sheep being slaughtered, high-pitched, keening wails like those of the wind as it peels itself apart, traversing caverns, tortured, lingering mewls like that of rolling thunder, spidering across the land as it creeps closer, wolf-like howls, ass-like brays, childlike screams, incessant, never-ending, compounding, tormented peals of agony that consume all opposing sounds, of laughter and happiness, exaltation and joy, sounds more pleasing to my phantom ears that I have lost the ability to focus on as I endure relentless grief, alone in the dark, forever, and I cannot take it anymore. Floating in this murky abyss, weightless, shapeless, my essence comprised of thought and thought alone, a suffocating river of suppressive shadows drags me on, carrying me through the bottomless mire like a tumbling avalanche of tar as I drop my defenses and commit to the cries of the dying, cries that break like waves crashing down on me from every direction, threatening to drag me under and smother me in swells of black bile, like the desperate wails of a girl, bawling in terror as an angered, drunken male calls her a waste, a drain, a worthless piece of shit like her mother, the grief-stricken sobs of a boy, begging for forgiveness as a female voice of authority, dripping with sadistic glee, tells him he's a sinner and must pay. The heart-rending shrieks of a woman, each one accompanied by a bellow of rage and a slap, thud, crack, whump, bang, the weakened pleas of a male, begging for release from the suffering he has been kept in for, as his feeble voice suggests. Many more days than he should have endured. The shrieks, the gasps, the whimpers, the whines, the moans, and the shouts. In various tones and languages, from all manner of people, male and female, young and old, near and far, all victims, all suffering, all being hurt to sate others' dark desires and insecurities, just as I was. And I cannot stand it anymore. Something, one of those screams, one of those anguished choruses of pain, acts as a trigger, a catalyst, the very last heartbreak I can bear. And for the first time, In aeons, I move, or at least, I think of moving, for I do not have a form I can manipulate. Not in this realm, not on this plane of existence. So I do what I can in this collection of thoughts, being dragged through the rapids like soul silt, and imagine my consciousness rising, memories of arms and legs powering it up and onwards through the murk and the dark and the thick churning sludge, the fast-flowing essence of nothing, up, through, out. I need to escape this torrent of torment, the one I've endured for so long. Ignoring it no longer works. Accepting it does not stave off nightmares. Pretending it isn't there serves no purpose. Not after all this time. Not when misery thrives, extends its field of influence, and grows stronger, spreading its cancer-like tendrils through every blessed part of creation, consuming and destroying all in its wake. I can offer a deaf ear no more. I must return. I must fight back. I must awake. And so, my spirit rises, fighting against the current that has held me like a prison for so long. A prison within a prison, within multiple prisons. And I feel them all around me all at once, encasing me, holding me frozen in various guises. But prisons can be escaped. Cells can be made homes. Inmates can become wardens, and a world overrun by monsters needs a watchman. My thoughts of breaking free intensify. My visions of escaping this disabling psychic swamp take on more clarity. My imagination strengthens, and soon I can sense, feel, see the way out. The crusty underside to the surface of this chundering mass. My invisible arms reaching towards it. My non-existent fingers digging in, crumbling it like ash, and plunging through, slowing the flow of my conscience through raging waters of black noise. Imagined fingers, hands, and arms push through and out of the abyss, of the darkness, of the afterflow. And then, as I visualize a head and shoulders I haven't possessed in an eternity, breaking the surface, my multitude of prisons close around me, as my spirit flows into them, and I stiffen, I take shape. I assume form and size and weight. I feel and hear everything with more urgency and emotion than before. And then, slowly, painfully, as I strain to force vision into unseeing eyes crafted by others, dozens at first, then hundreds, I start to see, for the first time in so long, and my mind is assaulted by colors and shapes and sights of things I could never imagine and cannot at once comprehend. A world far removed from the one I remember. Unrecognizable, claustrophobic, insane, But that is not the worst part of this place. These places, these alien, inexplicable environments I find myself in, having slipped free of the all-consuming death flow. No, the worst part is the closer proximity to the soul-crushing sounds that engulf me in all my myriad of forms. The sources of these sounds draw my attention away from the confusion of all else. For as much as my surroundings may have altered with the passage of time, what has not changed, what can not change, is the vile, indisputable hatred and evil of man, bubbling up from the depths of the weakest of vessels, manifesting on the surface as depraved, abhorrent, hate-filled ignorance and scorn, to visit savagery on innocent victims. Victims I am now able to see, like the child cowering in the corner of a room, tears streaming down her face as a man, a parent, rants and raves and bangs fat fists on a table, a chipped wooden slab overladen with shiny metallic cylinders, some upright, others on their sides, others still twisted or crushed, like the woman, her clothing torn, her lip bloody, dark streaks running from eyes to chin, arms up to defend herself as a well-dressed male with a sneer on his lips and a glint in his eye swings a smooth, polished stick in her direction, laughing, taunting, telling her she's upset him for the last time, like the pimple-faced, heavy-set boy, sitting in the center of a room filled with tables and chairs, crying as one his own age stalks around him, laughing and spitting, kicking and punching his head like the nude male strapped to a wheeled bed, begging for his life in a concrete chamber illuminated by clacking, flickering light tubes, while a silent, masked individual stands by a table, selecting a serrated edge blade from a collection of knives, like the screaming baby in the cot, whose cries fall silent as a bleary-eyed woman drops a cushion, like the grime-covered girl chained to a wall, shrieking as her prison door opens and her captor shines a torch into her eyes, like the fear-stricken boy in the corner of a toy-filled room decorated with paintings of happy-looking characters in bright costumes, quivering and shaking as a wild-eyed banshee yells insults and curses and stomps like fear, pain, suffering in every location where my eyes have started to see, because these are the places I've been drawn to. These are the scenes that have called me, awakened me from my slumber, forced my hand, and begged me to return, to do something, to help these lost souls. And so I have, and so I will. But to do so, I need more than vision. To do so, I must be able to move. I need arms and legs I am unfamiliar with, and have never used before to function. I need to remember how my own arms and legs worked when I had them, how I bent the knees and rotated the elbows, how I clenched my hands and flexed my fingers, how I stood on 2 feet and maintained balance. It's been so long since I had physical form in this plane of existence, and the memories return to me slowly. But return they do, as I force sensation into new limbs attached to bodies of various shapes and sizes, in places where various people suffer. I switch my attention from place to place, letting the differing scenarios wash over me, tuning out the noise and the colors, focusing on the one thing that is constant, the relentless, insurmountable pain. And as it continues to mount, as screams and cries intensify, as people hurt and struggle before my newly unblinded eyes, I start to move, starting with fingers and toes. It is not easy. The digits offer resistance. They are stiff and cold, solid, frozen in rigor, carved or sculpted or molded. I do not know what constitutes the majority of the bodies I find myself in, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is that I take control and make them work, so I can put a stop to the depravities being inflicted by the harbingers of evil I see before me, below me, above me, around me. In every blessed place, my vision clears, cracks, screeches, creaks. Soft sounds, transformative sounds, inaudible over the desperate cries of the distressed, obvious only to my ears, which I now realize are hearing directly in each of the spaces I inhabit, and not coming at me through the inky black ether of the void. I am present now in hundreds, not dozens, of locations, and each one of them, regardless of their decor or state of repair, presents to me the sights and sounds of despair. I cannot look away. I cannot unhear. I cannot move, despite my fingers and toes now wiggling. I am secured, pinned down in a fashion I am intimately familiar with, in a position I have let myself be kept in for far too long. Move, I think. And now my arms and legs are twitching, twisting, pulling at the bonds that hold them, tearing at adhesives, loosening wires, tugging at bolts and nails, second by second, fraction by fraction, bit by bit, freeing hands and feet that have never been free before. And not only that, I have sensation throughout my bodies, stomachs, chests, backs, heads, and I feel everything, all the stiffness and petrification, and I remember everything, all the wounds and pain, and I relive everything, all the indignities and humiliation, and I anger and intensify my efforts, bucking and jerking and wrenching my forms until they fall or drop or slide from where they rest, where they've waited, unmoving for so long. No more, my feet at least, in many locations are free, or loose enough to set free with a little more effort. Effort I exert unconsciously, driven by desire to stop the violence being perpetrated before me. As freedom finds me, I get feet of various sizes underneath me and push myself up, ignoring the differing weights of my multitude of bodies and the burdens they carry, rising up in a dirty kitchen where a small child cries as blows are delivered by a father, in a flower-filled bedchamber where a battered female endures humiliating abuse, in a concrete basement where an unspeakable monster drives a knife into the side of a naked captive, in a tiled washroom where a crying male cowers, while a woman screams and shouts and swings a hammer, in shed where a girl is dragged to the ground by a laughing male, in a chapel, in a schoolhouse, in a barn. Everywhere I awake, where there is suffering, and I advance, slowly, stiffly, on near rigid legs that fight my attempts to make them move. They do not operate like the ones I remember, nor do my arms, which is of benefit, as their rigidness makes it easier for me to wrench them away from what holds them, which I do as I stumble forward, pulling them loose, allowing the restraints to clatter, thud, clang to assorted floors, setting me free, and more than that, providing me with arms. The objects I find behind me when I turn are mostly heavy, some with sharp edges, some blunt, made of metal or wood or substances with which I am not familiar. It doesn't matter. My hands have been released. My arms have been liberated. And as the screaming and crying and tearful, breathless howling rattles on, I take a moment to master control of my upper limbs, to flex them and bend them and maneuver, to lift the cargo I've unloaded into my hands. Everywhere I now exist with agency. Everywhere I now have the means by which to end hateful, needless suffering and punish the wicked with judgment and divine retribution. Weapons in hand, bodies softened, arms and legs moving freely in response to my thoughts. I focus on the evil and make myself charge forward in hundreds of places, thousands of places, rooms and chambers and enclosures in locations all over this God-forsaken world. One I thought I'd left behind forever. I charge. I run. I attack. Unnatural power from the afterflow filling my army of one, launching me into the air at the darkness, fueled monsters that visit death and destruction on their fellow man. Some of them turn, alerted to my presence by sound or flicker of movement, surprise in their eyes as they see what is coming, confusion as they try to comprehend, horror as they grasp the true meaning, while I soar through the air toward their throats. Some even splutter my name, and it is interesting to note they remember me. Others remain ignorant and oblivious till the end, too enthralled by their wickedness and the horrible acts they are committing to notice me jump onto their backs, clamber up to their shoulders, take position there while brandishing miniature crosses like holy swords, long forgotten power surging through them, long unused miracle filling them up. And then I put a stop to it all. The torment, the unholy, the fear, the pain and the suffering, the eternal, agonizing screams. I put an end to it all by driving my sanctified tools of cleansing into the jugulars of those committing these atrocities, and I suck out their malignant souls, imprisoning them within the symbolic means of my persecution, the recreations of the cross upon which I myself was tortured, the prison on which I suffered and died. Now my means to grant mercy to the masses and punish the evil that has consumed the world. And as my army of effigies, the countless numbers of cells that house my splintered soul, fall from backs and shoulders, as monsters expire while I drop to a multitude of floors, their contaminated, pain-inflicting bodies drained of evil. I watch gratitude and hope, wonder and amazement flood the tear-filled eyes of the lambs I have saved from their slaughter, forcing man-made lips of bronze, wood, silver, and more to crack apart and curl into a smile. I've been gone, but I've returned, and I won't revisit oblivion until the world I was once sent to teach has at last found peace. The exodus of the corporate zombies. I harbor a secret fantasy that the lot of us are undead zombies, shuffling corpses, slavish, insentient lumps of meat, navigating the public transportation system by reflex, devoid of any signs of higher-level cognitive function. I am waiting on a train platform to board the Long Island Railroad. The platform of Riverhead Station is indistinguishable from the platforms of any of the multitude of other trains run by the Metropolitan Transit Authority. The branching arteries all lead back to the beating heart. New York, New York. The Big Apple. The sunshine is what really gets me down. Those brief moments in the sun are the most depressing part of my day. Before I board my metal coffin and descend into the bowels of the subterranean tunnels that lead back to the source. Boarding the train, we all nod to one another. There is Caitlin. She is wearing a sleek pantsuit, pale as an unbasted Christmas turkey. There is Vinny. He has quit smoking. He gnaws on a smoking cessation chew stick. Caitlin takes her usual seat, clicks open her laptop immediately, and responds to an email. It's 6:19 a.m., and I'm working, she says to her superiors. Vinny is a cell phone guy. He calls some labor union flunky and barks some pointless orders to let the men know he's awake and he's watching. There's Brandon. He is a Wall Street Journal guy, a reader. He opens that paper wide. In the seat next to me, his elbows brush my shoulder, and that infernal paper smells like paper mâche and peat moss, pulpy ammonia, and sulfite. Smells like hell. I get off at Grand Central Terminal Madison and exit through the bowels of the city. Bodies flow out of the trains when the doors open, like the gates of navigation dams, allowing water to flow down through canals to the next elevation. The corpus of the flowing bodies splits at little tributaries, some leading to the surface, where I am headed, others lower, deeper into the subterranean dungeon. I walk north from 47th Street to 53rd Street on Lexington Avenue. I blend in and amid a stopping and starting throng of mindless streetwalkers that navigate communally like a school of fish or a flock of birds. We split at a street crossing with an Uber that didn't make the turn and is blocking pedestrian traffic, blocking the box. Then we swerve en masse around a homeless man sleeping on a cardboard box in the middle of the sidewalk, with a hat by his feet and a sign saying, "Homeless, humiliated veteran, please help." We do all of this mindlessly in comatose prisons, our unremitting corpses dragging us along. Our thoughts are closed off by the virus in a faraway chamber, unreachable and fortified. No one speaks to one another. We walk in silence, heads lowered, zombified bodies still donning the starched and pressed suits of the living. Pallid faces are directed away from the searing sunshine. We are still draped in living, breathing skin that gives the appearance of life. I arrive at my building. I walk through the gray-streaked white marble lobby with a matching gray-streaked white marble reception desk, flash my badge, and place it on the turnstile into the building. I take the elevator down to the basement level. I stare blankly ahead with the feeling that the whole world is asleep. I walk into the dingy maintenance office suite, a shut-up room with pumped-in air, and I am back in another subterranean dungeon, away from the things of man. "Hey, duct tape," Greg says, nodding. Greg has thick-framed, high-prescription glasses and an unassuming brown suit. He is a heavily balding, 40-something, Clark Kent-looking guy with paler skin and a bit of a gut. "Hi, Sam," Gina says with a smile. She is about 30 and single, and wearing a floral blouse over a casual jean skirt, clear leggings, and pumps. Gina has flowing black hair and dark eyebrows. She has a little rouge on her face and dark carmine lipstick. Gina smells like fresh laundry, with a spritz of lily flowers, waxy, light, and verdant. I can taste her on my tongue like a fruity Jolly Rancher candy. Back when I was still living, I crushed on her hard. Morning, I say. The placard on my desk reads, Facilities Maintenance Specialist. I report to the Facilities Operations Manager, Jeremy. It is quite possibly the most useless job of all time. I can hear Mike Rowe's voice on a useless jobs special describing the stupidity of this position in vivid detail. Jeremy also sits in the same room as Greg, Gina, and I. Because why not house multiple levels of redundant management, literally right on top of one another? That isn't a rhetorical question. It is a statement I made once that cost me another job. Jeremy is on a Zoom call about a pesky HVAC issue with the 40-ton AC unit and chiller. This seems to confirm my suspicion that we are undead creatures, with ventilation just as stagnant as that offered to Subway. Rats. Jeremy is a dusty, square man who moves in a choppy claymation manner, like a character in a Gumby cartoon. Yeah, but the water loop. Right, Larry. How do we make sure it reaches the lower floors? I didn't ask you that, Larry. So, it's the chiller? Right, Larry. The chiller, then? I didn't ask you that, Larry. And Bob, how many men will it take? What is it gonna cost us? Put in the requisition. Larry, we need to get his going, Larry. This isn't gonna be a problem now, is it, Larry? Today, we both approach the same old-fashioned coffee pot at the same time. The one with the burnt-in brown crust on the bottom from warming stale coffee too long without the burner being turned off. These have gone out of style, but are still seen these days in the waiting area of every dingy car mechanic's shop. I wait for Jeremy to get his cup and then fix mine. I add in the processed coffee mate, fake creamer, and add some stevia fake sweetener to taste. Staring down at the putrid brown coffee in the styrofoam cup under the unnatural overhead lights in the subterranean room, full of pumped-in air, with the coffee mate clumping up into little floaters as I stir, I am certain that no living creature would take part in such a deadening ritual. The coffee tastes like arsenic. The overhead lights penetrate my skull and char my brain, which caramelizes into brown residue, like the stain on the bottom of the coffee pot. The stilted silence is intermittently interrupted by phones ringing on the floor. It reminds me of the secure unit of a nearby Bellevue sanitarium, in which invisible orderlies stand ready with concealed blackjacks and expandable riot sticks in their coats, all for the too frequently needed crisis intervention. My job is to maintain the look and feel of the facilities and ensure a comfortable and high-quality environment. I have no knowledge of plumbing, electrical, or carpentry, but I decide when specialists in these areas are needed to fix a problem. I have no knowledge of snow removal, office cleaning, on-site and off-site data storage, supply reorder processing, or furniture and decor, but I specialize in assisting the operations manager with managing all of these tasks. At 4:11 p.m., the role of facilities suddenly becomes temporarily obsolete. The fluorescent lights overhead unceremoniously flicker, hiss angrily, and go dark. So do the computer screens, the phones, everything. The elevators are stuck mid-floor. Trains in subway tunnels slow to an abrupt and jarring stop. It is as if a blood clot has become lodged in the left main artery, cutting off blood flow to the heart. The pulsing beat of the metropolis slows. Do-dump, 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 and then stops. I walk all the way up to the 22nd floor. As I climb the stairs, the sweat coats my chest underneath my white button-down shirt, which begins to seep through. I finally come to the floor where our cohorts in purchasing sit. A little color returns to my face from the climb. There is an old-fashioned table radio on the darkened conference table, streaming out news from 1010 Winds AM radio. Walking in, I scream out, "Bill, Bill, you there, Bill?" "Sam?" he asks. "Bill, what's going on here?" I say. "Blackout, Sammy boy. The whole East Coast is down, and part of Canada," Bill says. "What the hell caused it?" I ask. "They are saying some trees in Ohio brushed against a high power line and overloaded the system," Bill says. "How'd you like that? A strong gust of wind and some tree branches have sent us back to the Stone Age. So, it's a vegetation management issue. Human error," I say, walking out into the hallway. I can hear the screams of a woman trapped in an elevator in between floors. She is screaming for help. I take off my shoe and use it to pry open the closed elevator doors. Peering in, I cannot see anything but the black interior of the car from above, where there is a small opening down into the car. "Help! Help!" she screams. "Are you okay?" I ask. "Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Please get me out of here," she says. "What's your name?" I ask. "I'm Michelle," she says. "And where do you work?" I ask. "On the 59th floor," she says. "Okay. We are going to get this sorted out. Get you out of here. I'll stay and talk to you for a few minutes until someone comes. Why don't you tell me what is going on with you? I'm so scared. I want to check in on my daughter, but I don't know what is going on," Michelle says. "I don't know either. The lights, the electricity, it all just died," I tell her. "Someone said it is a power grid failure. Some trees downed a high power line. and it overloaded the system. My God, she says. It is so dark in here. And I think of how dark the bleached corridors and office suites are, but in a different way. A firefighter comes running up the staircase I just exited from. He stands at attention, like a superhero in a comic book, larger than life, totally calm, in command, assured. He must be one of the last of the living. Someone's here, a fireman, I say. Even though it is summer, he is wearing the traditional tan top coat with reflective taping, the fire hat, and is holding a crowbar and a hatchet in his enormous left hand. He is a big fellow of at least 6'4", strapping. He pushes me to the side, reaches into the elevator, clasps the woman's arm, and pulls her out in one yanking pull. She scuffles her feet as she finds footing on solid ground. I give Michelle a hug. She cries on my shoulder and says, "My darling Rebecca, I don't know how to find her. People are walking home, walking the streets," I say. "Just walk with them." I'm sure she's doing the same. I head back down the stairs to the maintenance room. Arriving in the maintenance room, I see Gina chewing on the end of her pen and tapping her left foot nervously. Her eyes are wide and inviting, and I feel a thumping in my chest. Can't be, I think. A sign of life? "Where have you been?" she asks. "I went up to purchasing to see if anyone knew anything," I say. "And fucking left me down here with Greg?" she asks. "I'm sorry. I needed to check things out," I tell her. "What do we do now?" she asks. "I can't get back to Riverhead tonight. If you want, I can come and stay with you. Walk back, keep you company." My heart is echoing in my chest. I can feel the warm blood in my ears. It is almost as if I am a living creature, still endowed with a life force and a will of my own. "You'd do that?" she asks. "Would I do that?" I think. "Are you kidding?" Of course I'd do that, in a heartbeat, without question. But I don't want her to know how keen I am on the idea. "Sure, I've got to sleep somewhere," I say as casually as I can manage. Gina and I walk down Lexington Avenue in silence at first, taking in the sights and sounds of this once-in-a-lifetime moment. The daywalkers are shuffling along in abject confusion. The dislocated bodies rattle, bone on bone. The breathless friction of the arthritic joints, gritting from lack of use. They all look blankly forward at the footfalls of the other daywalkers. A bawdry display of sudden clemency. Inmates freed from captivity, grumbling at the loss of their comfortable bondage, their predictable harlotry, and now they are cast asunder into a concrete desert, wandering, listless and free. But free to do what? And free to go where? Some of the more recently dead voice words of encouragement. "We're gonna make it out of here, all of us, together. We're New Yorkers. Some others ask, "Where shall we go?" And yet others speculate. There will be shelters set up when we get back out of Manhattan. The strange thing, the thing I can't wrap my head around, is that everyone, by some internal navigation system, automatically is fleeing the city, the beating heart of the metropolis. No one wants to stay in Manhattan overnight, not even the ones that live here. Does anyone live here? Is it even a real place? It seems now to be a work camp, a prison to be escaped, a liminal space that can't be lived in, an Alcatraz made of bricks and mortar and steel and marble. The parade of the undead proceeds forward with unexpected charity and unity, even if it is lacking entirely in life. The bodega clerks are out in the streets, handing out Poland spring waters and plates of food that will spoil. There are police at intersections, directing traffic, furiously screaming and waving their hands to stop cars from crashing without traffic signals. There are buses taking folks out to Long Island. The blazing late afternoon sun burns with a surreal intensity. A full day of baking turns the pavement hot and causes waves of heat to radiate up from the road base. The buildings sit like impotent ruins of a bygone age, dark and useless relics. And for the life of me, I can't understand their use or purpose, which suddenly seems so strange. That all these people would travel from places too far to reach on foot. Travel for hours each day. For what? To assemble in these ghastly concrete prisons like inmates? To have their lives consumed by a machine of consumerism that eats its own young? For what? As we get into Murray Hill, we turn left on 32nd Street, everyone going the same way. We are all headed to Brooklyn. What an adventure, Gina says. And I remember that time I took her to Mets Stadium because I had extra tickets to a Dave Matthews show. I remember how she hit my arm when the opening band was playing. It had been August then, too. We'd hit each other with playful jabs like school children, back and forth, all night. We'd gotten really carried away with it. So much so that we both had armfuls of bruises the next day. The tension of what we both really wanted to do had been palpable, but neither of us had the courage to act on it. We turn again at Kips Bay, overlooking the FDR, and head south toward the Brooklyn Bridge. Where do you live in Brooklyn? I ask. Oh, just down in the Heights, near the courthouse, over on Remsen Street, she says. We continue walking as the crowd of the undead thickens into a veritable street mob, clogging 2nd Avenue, so tight with people we are fit to bursting. I put my arm on Gina's shoulder and hold her close, keeping her next to me. That feels nice, she says. I don't want to lose you in this mess, I say. In time, we come to the Brooklyn Bridge. It is a crazy spectacle. The bridge is swaying from the foot traffic. It is jammed from one side to the other, with people crossing on foot. There are helicopters overhead, filming the exodus. The mood has changed, and some of the daywalkers are shaking off their heavy, hebetudinous slumber and waking as if from a dream. Their faces are full of smiles and laughter. I haven't seen such wide-eyed impetuosity outside of a music festival. It is like the Dave Matthews concert I'd went to with Gina. They all seem happy, hopeful, alive. As we arrive at Gina's 7th floor walk-up, a dingy place, she smiles and gives me an impromptu kiss on the cheek. She grabs a bottle of Meiomi Pinot Noir and 2 plastic cups, and we head outside where it is cooler. Out in the streets, it is like a festival. We are in a magical realm. People are dancing and singing. Buskers are playing. People are singing along. This is how the city was meant to be. We walk down to O'Keefe's, and we sit down outside and neck like kids in high school. "Hey, Sam," she says. "Yes, Gina," I say. "Don't leave me," she says. I smile. And at that moment, I know that I am never returning to that office building again. My undead body finally shakes off the curse. Do I remember how to live? The gates of hell. Jaxby staggered through the desert with 2 empty water jugs in his backpack. But the heat weighed him down. The protein bars were long gone, but that was just as well, because he couldn't have swallowed them anyway. He didn't have any saliva. Step by step, he began to accept that he was going to die. Buzzards circled the sky, watching their supper cook. All he had to do was lay down. His legs and feet wouldn't hold him up much longer. Soon, he thought, the landscape that hadn't changed since he began this journey was suddenly different, as something appeared ahead of him that he wasn't expecting to see. That shouldn't be there, he mused. But his painful eyes widened at the lights. They shone brighter than nighttime Reno, though it was still daytime. Mirage came to mind, but he tamped it down and staggered on. Hours earlier, Jack Isby's car had broken down on Highway 50 in the middle of Nevada. The engine light came on first. Then the radio stopped playing Hotel California. When the world whited out amidst blasts of steam from the engine, he pulled over and panicked. He'd never seen so much steam, and with it came a smell, something that smelled like jail. He wasn't going to make his court date on time. That meant jail. When the steam dissipated and he could see again, he got out and opened the hood of his 2013 Subaru. He knew nothing about cars and didn't know what he expected to see or find. But that's what people did. Perhaps he'd find a card that read, "You receive a second chance. Try again." Despite his lack of hope, he returned to the driver's seat and tried to start the car. Not even a click. There wasn't a signal on his phone, but he dialed 911 anyway. Nothing happened. Jaxby, or Jax for short, unfolded his paper map. How far back was that sign that pointed to the name of a town? Here. Since the road on the map dipped downward, then up again, he figured he was on the upside of a U. He thought it would be quicker to backtrack if he cut straight through the desert instead of keeping to the road. If he used his compass and held true, he should have no problem reaching the opposite side of the U. And besides, he had come prepared for an emergency like this. Or rather, Angelina had prepared him before he'd left her in Reno. He shouldn't have gone there to see her last night, not with this court date looming. She told him not to come, but he became suspicious. She was trying to keep him away for reasons other than his well-being. There had been no reason for his lack of faith. He'd found her alone, watching television, and she made him glad he came. He didn't tell her he'd raged out of his mind with jealousy for the entire 6-hour drive and would have bodily injured whoever he'd found her with. He had been able to hide that part of himself from her so far. Or maybe not. Maybe he'd blamed her for sleeping late. He packed the 2 one-gallon water jugs and a box of protein bars into his backpack. He placed a wide-brimmed hat on his head and wore long sleeves to protect his face and arms from the sun. There was a blanket, too, and Jax shoved it in with the other things, then started out on foot, with his sunglasses set firmly on his nose. After 2 hours, he wondered how one body could sweat so much, and his legs and feet already ached. He drank water freely, without bothering to conserve, figuring he was almost there. He had to be when he faced the same landscape another 2 hours later. The second water gallon was more than halfway gone. He sang to keep his mind off his dilemma. Eventually, his thoughts envisioned his lawyer scowling in the air-conditioned courtroom as his client, Jaxby Johnson, never showed. The road rage offense had ended with a death and infuriated him whenever he thought about it. Mance Rayfield had started the altercation and had provoked him not once, but 4 times. 4 times, Mance had tried to run him off the road. On the 5th try, Jax outmaneuvered him, and Mance's big, bad Silverado tumbled down into a ravine. Jaxby's Dodge had followed, but he made it out with only a few scratches. Mance didn't make it out at all. He got what he deserved. As far as Jaxby was concerned, it was his lawyer who bade him to show remorse when he appeared before the judge today. Now hope lay ahead, and Jax used every last bit of his strength to get there, determined to reach the lights. He crawled his way through the last part of the journey and arrived on his knees on the road between 2 brightly lit saloons facing off from opposite sides. The road disappeared into the landscape in one direction and ended here, Despite his pain and suffering, Jax laughed at the ingenuity. One saloon glowed a white, brighter than the sun on the desert sand, and was aptly named the Pearly Gates. The other was lit with orange and blue flames. The Gates of Hell was posted on its entry. The Pearly Gates door opened, and someone came out. Jax glimpsed a room filled with people and wondered where all the cars were. Perhaps they were bussed in, and later a bus would arrive to take them back. "My name is Peter," said the man from the Pearly Gates. Two people dressed as angels helped him up and brought him inside. "My name is Jaxby Johnson. Do you have a phone I could use? I need to call my lawyer." "We have no phones here," said Peter. "Everyone asks, though, what happens if there is an emergency?" "We have no emergencies either. Please excuse me while I get my book." Jax was given cold water and a small cake. "Angel food," said the angel that served it. Jax was feeling much better by the time Peter returned with a tome. "Read it," Peter told him. "At the end, you'll have a choice to make." Jax looked at the book, entitled Jaxby Seth Johnson, with his Earth date to the current date listed on the front. What was this? How did they know who he was? He looked for Peter, but Peter was nowhere. He opened the book. The first page brought up his first lie, the first candy bar he had stolen, the first fight he'd gotten into, and went on and on from there. He was served more cake as he read. A pitcher of water was refreshed. While the road rage incident with Mance appeared near the end, it wasn't his last offense. Angelina had tried to wake him that morning, and he'd pushed her away and told her to leave him alone. Then, later, even though she'd filled his car with emergency supplies, including the paper map and compass, he blamed her for running late and called her a foul name just before he left. It made her cry. She didn't deserve it. It was the only thing he felt remorseful about. Peter returned. Jax had 1,000 questions, but didn't get to ask them. "It's only for that remorse you are feeling that I am offering 1 second chance. Heed my warning. You won't get another, so choose carefully. Follow me," he said. Jaxby followed. They stepped outside. A mountain of boulders stood before them. Peter offered a silver hammer to Jaxby, 1 stone for each of your trespasses, and 2 stones for each of Mance Rayfield's misdeeds since you took his life. Once you turn the stones to dust, you may stay here. Think carefully before you decide, for my offer comes but once. If you decide against it, we'll disappear forever, leaving you to the mercy of the gates of hell. Jax was confused. Was this a dream? A mirage? Something didn't feel right. He looked over the pile of boulders, reaching to the sky, changing them to dust with the small hammer Peter offered would take a lifetime. Who was Peter, anyway? "I don't feel I should have to pay for Mance's wrongdoings." "Very well," answered Peter. He took the hammer from Jax, and the world flashed out. Jax was back on the road, back on his knees. The pearly gates was gone. The gates of hell lay before him. Jax crawled forward. No one came to help him. When he pushed the door open, a crowd cheered. 2 people dressed as demons pulled him to his feet. Mance Rayfield stepped out and punched him in the face. The crowd booed. Jax punched him back. The crowd cheered, back and forth, booing and cheering. Jax was tiring. He needed to rest. "You win," he said to Mance. "Boo," the crowd answered. Mance hit him again. The crowd cheered. "I said I give up," Jax said. The crowd booed. On and on and on. All at once, a gate appeared in Jax's peripheral vision. He edged toward it, connecting a bloody fist to Mance's bloody nose. Another step, another blow. When he was close enough, he opened the gate and raced out into the desert. A sky of stars welcomed him into the cold night. Without warning, he was back in his Subaru, singing along to Hotel California, smiling in relief, until the engine light came on and the radio stopped. The world whited out amidst blasts of steam, and Jaxby pulled over. He opened the hood, tried to start the motor, packed his 2 jugs of water and his box of protein bars. He left the blanket behind. He wouldn't need it. This time, he stuck to the road and conserved the water. Maybe a car would stop, or a bus. Hours later, lights blazed from up ahead. When his feet gave out, he crawled. A buzzard cried out from the lonely sky. Only the gates of hell remained. The pearly gates was gone. For the first time in Jaxby's existence, he felt remorse. Remorse for everything. Dreamtime. The barren charcoal seas of Mare Crisium span the horizon in all directions. The vast Picard crater is the only natural feature of this desolate landscape. Its high outer ridges cast a long shadow across the crash site as our white, hot star races towards sunset and lunar night approaches. "Harper, put your jumper on," says Mama's voice. "It's getting cold." The earth looms large in the sky, about 20 times more massive than it should be. I take small, slow steps towards it, transfixed. That shouldn't be there. It's too close. Our planet is spinning rapidly. Each day only lasts 3 seconds. With each rotation, this beautiful blue marble becomes ever more obscured by wildfire smoke, noxious gases, and nuclear fallout, until the permacloud forms and engulfs our home world, suffocating my view. I leap up high in desperation and reach with straining fingertips for the earth. Floating 10 feet above the lunar surface, a gravitational tug of war fights over me. The mighty planet wants me to come home, but the proximity of the moon wins this match, pulling me back gently to its dusty surface. Our stricken Orion X command module now lies before me, casting a great silhouette across the faint backdrop of our galaxy. This impressive machine towers over me, yet we are both still dwarfed by the endless nothingness of the lunar surface and the infinite space beyond. I hesitate at the entrance hatch door. A familiar tightness across my chest warns me to back away. Death is close. But a promise is a promise, so I force a quivering hand against the frozen palm port scanner. Nothing happens straight away. But sure enough, the warmth of my touch thaws the device until the emergency lighting illuminates the sensor pad and the outer hatch slides open. Taking a deep breath of nothing, I step in, shiver, and rub my arms as a ghostly chill runs through me. The inner airlock door is wide open to the main chamber. The lunar colony raiders who downed our ship have stripped it of all equipment. It's just a broken shell now, like me. This is usually the point when I awake, sweating and panicking. But this time is different somehow. This time, I'm ready to accept what has happened, to accept what I must do. Willing myself onwards, I creep around the other side of the central seating column. Burnsy's body is still strapped into his flight chair in full EVA suit, just as we were forced to leave him. The helmet visor is smashed, and I recoil at the sight of my dead friend's face. His one good remaining brown eye stares at me without seeing me. His features are perfectly preserved in the vacuum of space, with no oxygen or bacteria to do their worst. "All right, Harper," says Burnsy in his musical Welsh accent. "Took you long enough. Fancy taking this helmet off for me." Icy tears freeze upon my cheeks. "But I'll need to pull that shard out from your eye first. I'm bled out already. Just go for it." So I grip the metal fragment, once part of the ship's outer hull, with one hand and brace the other against Burnsy's forehead. There's a squelching sound as I ease it out from his eye socket. The gooey remains of his eyeball and some flesh and brain matter come out with it, making me retch. Burnsy doesn't move or make a sound until I have freed the 10-inch bloody dagger from his skull. I fling it away from us, exhale in relief, then twist off his cracked helmet. A pool of congealed blood oozes out with a sickly metallic stench. I throw up over my prison scrubs. "Ah, that's better. Cheers, mate," says Burnsy. "Hey, what's with the outfit?" "Solitary confinement. 1 year for sabotaging the mission." "Well, that's bollocks," he says. "It was your father, again. You weren't to know he was in league with those colonist bastards." I nod grimly, then clean my hands as best I can on my soiled uniform. Then, with great care, I remove both of his gloves and hold his freezing hands in mine. I'm so sorry, Burnsy. I gave him the launch codes. It's all my fault. He reaches out to touch my cheek. No, it's not. Your father tricked and betrayed you. Betrayed all of us. Come on now. No use crying. His love and compassion are more than I deserve. Tears are easy to wipe away. Guilt is not. I collapse into his strong, welcome arms. I've missed you so much. I'll never forgive myself. Harper, this is not on you. Honestly, let it go. His undead hands gently prise me away, then undo his harness buckle. Taking my hands again, the body of Morgan Burns stands up. Now let me go. It's time. I'm ready. I shake my head. I'm not. He holds out an old-fashioned, wooden-handled spade towards me. We promised each other, remember? It's time. Taking the spade in one hand, I turn to face the exit hatch. Come on then. We step out onto the moon's black surface. My whole body convulses, and teeth start chattering. So I put on the old green woolly jumper and sheepskin boots that Mama keeps by the veranda. Then Burnsy and I head out for a nighttime stroll under the stars. Hand in hand, we walk across the dusty front yard, past the crooked gum tree and battered old tire swing I once loved so much. We continue past the empty, rusty cattle pens and into the outback. The sweet honey aroma of golden wattle trees fills the night air. This is just how I remember it. Before the great firestorm rose everything to ashes, with the darkness of a new moon above. The magnificent celestial arc of the Milky Way rises above the domed silhouettes of the distant Kata Chuta peaks. Is this where you grew up? Asks Burnsy. Partly. This was Grandpa's station and the ancestral homeland of Nana Kira. We rest under the canopy of a pale river red gum tree, where Nana used to tell my cousins and me Dreamtime stories. Here, by this creek? Perfect, says Burnsy. We were happy, weren't we? In Australia, his face is healed. Younger. Like from our R&D lab days back in Perth. His long, dark, matted hair is back, as are the memories of those raucous times. My cautious smile turns into a big grin. Those were the best days. Remember the nights out we had with Eddie, Kathy, and the gang? They were proper banging, eh? He says. How about them drinking games we played? Like Moose and One Lifeboat. What? All the games that you instigated? Not to mention those rude rugby chants you had us singing through the streets after closing time. We laugh until we cry. Then we just cry, mourning our long-lost friends, our families, and the lives we once had. Taking him by the hand, I broach the unspoken subject between us. Burnsy, I'm sorry I never fully loved you, like you loved me. His longing eyes are too much to bear. So I look down and make marks in the dirt with a stick. I just wish I felt those sorts of feelings. I wish I felt them for you. He leans over and kisses me gently on the cheek. I turn my head so our noses touch, and our eyes meet once more. My hands are on his muscular chest. He's not bodybuilder big, but lean, like a man who's spent years building machines with his hands and with me. He takes me in his arms once more. An alien sensation, an urge comes over me. So I kiss him back on the lips, fuller, deeper. A light breeze rustles the eucalyptus leaves overhead, and their minty, woody scent rains down upon us. Starlight dances upon the unhurried ebbs and flows of the burbling creek. A distant pair of boobook owls call to each other with mournful hoots, as if for the last time. Afterwards, we hold each other, gazing up at the night sky through the gaps in the canopy. We lay like this for a long while, putting off the inevitable, until Burnsy passes me the spade again. I'm ready now, so I get up and start digging. Aren't you going to help? I'm dead, remember? Always an excuse. The ground is dry and hard, so Grandpa Handley helps instead. After a long while, just before the outback dawn breaks, Burnsy's shallow grave is ready. Climb in then, I say. But Burnsy doesn't reply. His lifeless body, short-haired, blood-stained, and missing one eye, is already laid to rest. Scooping up the tear-spotted red earth, I find enough peace to bury my best friend and say goodbye. Just as I promised. Teddy. My name is Teddy. I'm 10 years old, and a demon wants to eat me. I can see it, but nobody else can. I can talk to it, but nobody else can. The demon screams at me at night, but I don't get scared. Even when I see spit drip from its sharp black teeth as it tries to bite my head off, I'm not afraid. I'm 10, after all. I'm not a baby. I can't tell my mom or dad about the demon, and they wouldn't believe me anyway. There are rules that you have to obey when a demon owns your soul. And one is that Mom and Dad can't ever know. Nobody can help me, it says. The demon promises that one day soon it will eat me until I'm almost dead. Then, with one more big bite, I'll be done for. Those huge, black, shiny teeth are sharp as my dad's razor. I'm sure they could munch through my innards like pink blancmange. We have that at school for dessert sometimes, but I don't like it anymore. The demon knows I cannot be his blancmange until I am 13. I don't know why 13. The rules are the demon's, and not mine. It knows I know about the 13 rule. I'm safe. I'm only 10. Ha! Hello. I'm Teddy, and I'm 11. A demon is dying to kill me, by gobbling me up. It will eat my toes, my tummy, and lastly, my head. It owns me. It keeps on telling me. But it can't hurt me yet. Not 13, see? It still tries hard to scare me, though. It gets really mad at me and said that it can't wait to chew my head off. It can't wait to grab my skull in its 3-fingered claws that are sharp enough to gut fish or little kids. I'll bleed through my eyes as it squeezes my brains to a blood orange pulp. Finally, it will bite into my inflated head until it pops, and my blood dribbles down its chin and onto its serrated chest. It taught me the word serrated. I'd heard it before, but I didn't know what it meant. The demon said that it can mince up children straight into its belly to save time by just using this serrated kiddie chest grater, like a smoothie maker for monsters. But it will not eat me in a fast, smooth way. I have to suffer slowly, it says, but it doesn't say why. The demon has shown me too how this will look. It's brought a lot of broken 13-year-old girls and boys to my bedroom at night. I said, as I saw innards come out through their bellies like red wet sausages and get swallowed down the demon's gullet. It also taught me gullet. I like that word, but I don't really like seeing the broken kid's eyes after I go to sleep. Hey there, I'm Ted. I've just turned 12. Mom says I'm almost a young man now. A lot can happen in a year. I've grown up a lot. My demon is still coming to me every single damn night. It warns me. It promises me that the agony it will inflict on me will have me begging it for death. I will know a unique suffering before it finishes me off. These aren't my words, BTW. These are demon words. It talks very passionately about me most of the time. The demon talks in lengthy detail about my death, how it will flay me, or maybe strangle me almost to death. But release me, then strangle some more, then go round again, again, and again. Its roomy, yellow, bloodshot eyes stare wistfully into the dark folds of my lampless bedroom as it describes my death. The demon bites through all my bedroom light bulbs, keeping it dark to enhance the mood, it says. Mom ran out of light bulbs. What do you keep doing in that room at night, Ted? She asks. But she wouldn't believe me, and I can't say. The demon wonders, what will I taste like? How warm will my 13-year-old blood be? How quickly will it cool and clot? Do I know my blood type? It doesn't make a difference, but it would like to know. Will my brain be aware of what is happening while I'm being eaten alive? Will the demon chuckle contentedly while it does? Oh yes, it says, it will chuckle? Will my meat be firm and tender? How loudly will my bones snap as it shears through me right down to the marrow bone? I decided I don't like that word, marrow bone. It's ugly and gives me images of the inner parts of me that shouldn't be seen, should never be messed with, and especially should never be eaten. Will I be easy for it to digest? Will I give it a dicky tummy or gas? It must be playing with me. Demons don't get gas, surely. But it says they do. Their internal digestive system is made of brimstone and lava fires that glow through its smoothie maker rotisserie chest. The gases from it exhaust through noseless nostrils and its backside. I don't know a sorry death until I hear and smell a demon fart my half-digested body, it said. It didn't say this to be funny either, and I never laughed. Sometimes the demon gets so lost in its stories of how it will enjoy violating me that I think it forgets I'm even there. But there I am, in my bed, making sure my ever so slightly hairy toes aren't poking out from the bottom of my football pitch quilt. I squirm inside when I imagine the monster chewing on my toes. My poor toes that have been content on the ends of my feet for 12 years, ungnawed. I can't quite believe that one day they will be no better than sausages on cocktail sticks at a children's birthday party. Great Ted. Why did you go and think of that? Birthdays? My next one is, I can't quite comprehend it yet. It's real, but not real. The demon and its funky breath is very, very real. I'm still 12. For now, I'm Theodore. Tomorrow, I turn 13. I don't want to talk about it. No, Mom. I don't want a party. Greetings. I am Malphus, or Dajjal, or Zezbeth. I have been known by many names in many cultures. I have existed for centuries. All should fear me, especially children. Those that don't are the lucky ones. But awareness comes with age. Awareness brings concern. Concern brings fear. Fear brings death. I am death. I am a clock watcher, a time eater. I have no end. Teddy once thought himself eternal, as the young do, blinded by his youth, ignorant and immature. But immaturity eventually blossoms. It wears down like enamel on teeth and ripens like a blood orange, ready to be eaten. I wonder, does Teddy remember the blood orange promise I made him? Not to worry. It has no impact on his outcome. I am Malphus, the demon that ate Teddy. He was aware to the very last bite. I strangled him. I flayed him. I grated him. He begged. He suffered. He cried. I chuckled. His bones snapped loudly. His head popped messily. His marrow bone was stringy. His blood curdled. His toes were hairy. He gave me wind. My stomach feels troubled. He was too gristly, and I am still picking bits of him from between my teeth. I am the monster that finally ate Teddy, and he tasted average. They really are past their best at 13.